invite all the participants and guests to take their seats as we will be commencing in 5 minutes. Tadbirimizning barcha mehmonlari va qatnashchilardan o'z joylarini egallashlarini so'raymiz. Rasmiy ochilish marosimi 5 daqiqadan so'ng boshlanadi. We would like to remind all participants that headsets for simultaneous interpretation are available in the language of your choice. Hurmatli ishtirokchilar, tadbir mobaynida sinxron tarjima uchun mo'ljallangan quloqchinlardan foydalanishingiz mumkin. Dear attendees, once again we kindly ask you to turn your mobile equipments to the silent mode. Yana bir bor tadbirimizning qatnashchilaridan mobil qurilmalarni tovushsiz rejimga o'tkazishlarini so'raymiz. Dear attendees, we ask you to take your seats. The event is about to begin.
50 years, nature has spoken to us. Through leaves, through rivers, through the silence of vanishing species. But have we truly listened? Forests are being destroyed. Animals are disappearing. Illegal trade is damaging ecosystems. The world is losing what it cannot replace. The time to act is now. Samarkand, a city where civilizations meet. Today, the capital of global environmental dialogue.
We unite to protect our respective nature and wildlife, because tomorrow depends on the choices we make today.
"185 countries. One goal: to preserve life on Earth. CITES is a global agreement that protects species from extinction. Snow leopards, rare trees, marine species. We must protect, track, ban illegal trade, and build strong systems for conservation. 50 years of defending nature. Today begins a new chapter. Government, parties, business, person must be part of the solution. Not tomorrow, today. I want to see tigers in the forest. Not just in pictures. I want clean air. I want you to act. CoP20 is more than a conference. It's a bridge between nature and people. A place where words become an action. Samarkand 2025. Here we act to live in harmony with nature and future generations. Sites at 15 Samarkand, bridging nature and people.
mazhar onlar. Their forest grows and flowers, blooming particles and bowers. In the red book precious lies, we will grow them as and flies. Asrab qo'limiz bu bizga shior, yerda quvonch yashasin ming bor. CITES COP bu bizning ovoz, kelajak uchun qilamiz parvoz. We will protect the solar core. Let's rejoice for all. Our voice and will, our voice and will for the future. We are moving still. The circle, we're moving still. The circle, we're moving still. Winds are whispering soft and clear. Rivers hold their secrets near. Slow weapon gaze with gentle care. Listen humans, this world we share.
Biz kelajak, bizdadir hayot, tabiat uchun topdik shijoat. Samarqanddan qilamiz da'vat, kelajak uchun harakat hayot. Yo bro tingla, bu bizning sayyora, yer bizga in'omdir tizimli buzaman deb bo'lma ovora. Barglar, qushlar, dengiz va tog'lar, uni himoya qilsak yashadi har bog'. Bir ovozda butun dunyo uyg'onsin, tabiat bilan bir yurak bir yo'l. Biz kelajakmiz, bu bizning da'vat, tabiat uchun harakat bu hayot, bu haqiqat.
Asrab qolamiz, bu bizga shior, yerda quvonch yashasin ming bor. CITES COP bu bizning ovoz, kelajak uchun qilamiz parvoz. We will protect the solar core. Let's rejoice for all. Our voice and will, our voice and will for the future. We are moving still.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the opening ceremony of the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, CITES COP20, held in the historic city of Samarkand. We kindly invite His Excellency, Mr. Aziz Abduhakimov, Advisor to the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan on Environment and Chairman of the National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change, to deliver his welcoming remarks to the participants of CITES COP20.
Assalamu alaikum, Madam Secretary General, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear ministers, head of delegations, dear colleagues and friends. It is an honor to welcome you all to historic Samarkand, a city at the crossroad of civilizations, center of the Silk Road, where ideas, cultures, and science connected nations. Today, Samarkand once again unites nations across the globe, this time for bringing nature and people. We are privileged to welcome over 3,000 delegates from 185 countries at the occasion of the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to CITES. Dear participants, under the leadership of His Excellency Shavkat Mirziyoyev, President of Uzbekistan, we are setting environment and nature conservation at the top of government's development agenda. The year 2025 declared as a year of environmental protection and green economy in Uzbekistan, reflecting our strategic commitment to green transition. President initiated a number of impactful green initiatives, including RLC afforestation works, Yashil Makon nationwide initiative, water-saving programs, establishment of Central Asian University for Environment and Climate Change Studies, Green University in Tashkent. Just a few days ago, President of the Republic of Uzbekistan signed a decree to further strengthen national environmental governance, state ecological policy, and National Center for Environmental Monitoring was established with expanded authority to protect wildlife and combat environmental crimes. Distinguished delegates, allow me to highlight recent environmental reforms launched in our country. We have established 14 new protected areas, expanding the coverage of protected territories from 4% just 7 years ago to over 14% of total territory of Uzbekistan. 108 species of wild fauna and flora have been added to national CITES list and placed under government protection. We integrated digital solutions including geographic information system and smart patrol system. As a result, since 2023, our inspectors have recorded and prevented more than 14,000 cases of wildlife crime, including illegal trade. Penalties for wildlife crime increased by 10 times, for flora species by 5 times. We introduced moratoriums for harvesting threatened species. We are creating incentives for private sector and investing to wildlife breeding centers and specialized nurseries. As a result, specialized breeding centers and facilities for Haubara bustard, falcons, markhors, argali, and reptile species are created and successfully supporting the restoration efforts. Furthermore, specialized plantations for CITES-listed plants were established. Currently, 36 local nursery enterprises operate for sustainable harvest of ferula, licorice, and other medical plants, creating jobs and income opportunities for local communities. Zoos across the country have been transformed from traditional exhibition spaces into full-scale rehabilitation centers, providing veterinary care and reintegration programs for confiscated wildlife. Government adopted a decree to ban keeping wild animals in households. Efficient coordinating system established among CITES-related authorities, including National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change, the State Customs Committee, and State Veterinary Committee and Academy of Science. Expressing my gratitude to all of them for their strong cooperation and for joining us here today. Strengthening international cooperation and knowledge transfer is a strategic priority for Uzbekistan. We are deepening cooperation with Traffic International, Interpol, Fauna and Flora International, and regional partners to align national legislation with global best practices. Important to mention, IUCN Regional Office began its operation in Uzbekistan within the Green University premises, creating great synergy opportunities for science, praxis, innovation. Actively engaging to regional initiatives such as the Central Asian Mamas Initiative, Central Asian Desert Initiatives, and the Ramsar Regional Initiative. Honored to mention yesterday, we Central Asian states signed the Samarkand Declaration and Action Plan, a testimony to stand united in combating wildlife trafficking and enhancing cooperation with the global community. All these efforts reflect our commitment to building a safer environment for combating illegal trade and biodiversity conservation. Dear colleagues, hosting CITES conference is a historic milestone not only for Uzbekistan, but for the entire Central Asian region. We are ready to closely work with all parties, CITES Secretariat and international organizations to deliver practical, science-based and long-term outputs. In this regard, we consider the following key areas. First, Digitalization and integration of artificial intelligence into wildlife monitoring and enforcement are crucial for combating illegal trade. We propose establishing the Samarkand AI Hub, an advisory platform for cooperation with the parties and CITES Secretariat to support the transfer of digital and innovative solutions. Secondly, given the accelerating pace of illegal trade, we propose developing a mechanism for harmonizing sanctions and liability sanction and enforcement enhancement facility. This initiative would help parties update national legislation, increase penalties, and strengthen preventive and enforcement measures against violations. Thirdly, we put forward an initiative to develop wildlife breeding centers and plantations for rare plant species. To achieve this, we encourage private sector participation, including incentives such as the tax and custom benefits and support for necessary infrastructure. At the same time, systematic monitoring, digital tracking, genetic identification, and inspection control remain essential. Your Excellencies, Uzbekistan stands ready to work closely with the CITES Secretariat and all parties to advance above-mentioned proposals. We firmly believe that this conference in ancient Samarkand will contribute to our shared mission of protection of world's wildlife for future generations. I wish all participants productive discussions and practical outcomes. Once again, I welcome you to Samarkand, world capital of cultural tourism. I thank you for your attention. Katta rahmat.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Distinguished delegates, dear attendees, Her Excellency Ms. Inger Anderson, Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Programme, has sent a video message to the participants of CITES COP20. Please take a look at the screen.
Let me begin by expressing my deep thanks to the government of Uzbekistan for hosting this COP. And of course, special thanks to the President of the Republic and to Advisor Aziz Abdurhakimov. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, it is an honor to join you, although virtually, for this 20th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna, CITES. Sustainable trade in wild flora and fauna can deliver for both people and planet when it is grounded in good governance, in the rule of law, and in multilateral cooperation. When trade use is sustainable and well-regulated, species and ecosystems and livelihoods all stand to benefit. Sustainable use and livelihoods are not an add-on to conservation. They are central to it. Conservation efforts must strengthen, not weaken, the prospects of communities who live with and depend on wildlife and wild resources. This priority is reflected in the theme of UNEP 7, Advancing Sustainable Solutions for a Resilient Planet, that will take place just a few weeks from now. Without connecting biodiversity, development, and human well-being, there can be no sustainable long-term solutions to protect people and planet. We at UNEP remain deeply committed to supporting CITES and its parties in strengthening sustainable trade. CITES' success depends on collaboration, linking biodiversity, trade, and wider conservation, and the economic sectors. UNEP will continue to ensure synergies across multilateral environmental agreements and the global commitments, and convene ministers of environment, planning, finance, economy, culture to ensure a strong convention implementation. Guided by CITES' core principles that trade must be science-based, legal, and traceable, UNEP looks forward to continuing our support to CITES and to parties so that together we can ensure trade in wild species drives conservation, drives prosperity and resilience for generations to come. I wish you a good and successful COP.
We now kindly invite Her Excellency Ms. Yvonne Higuero, Secretary General of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species for Wild Fauna and Flora, to deliver her remarks.
Good morning, Your Excellency Mr. Aziz Abdulkahimov, Advisor to the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan on Environment and Chair of the National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change. Honorable ministers from all over the world, distinguished Government of Uzbekistan representatives, heads of multilateral environmental agreements, excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends. Welcome to the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to CITES. What an extraordinary moment this is for CITES, for conservation, and for all of us gathered here. First, let me thank the government of Uzbekistan for hosting us in this historic city of Samarkand. I urge the participants to take a walk around the Uzbek exhibit of beautiful paintings so you can see and delight in some of the species represented here in Uzbekistan. Thank you so much to the parties, to the committee members, to partners, experts, and my incredible secretariat team. Thank you for the dedication and hard work that has made this milestone possible. This is a meeting of firsts. For the first time, a COP is held in Central Asia. And what better place than Samarkand, the jewel of the Silk Road, a city that for centuries stood as a crossroads for cultures, ideas, and trade. Samarkand is a symbol of connection, exchange, and cooperation, the very values that define CITES. And today, those values matter more than ever. Global challenges, wildlife trade, species conservation, demand global solutions. Uzbekistan is showing leadership by declaring 2025 the Year of Environmental Protection and Green Economy, aligning with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Hosting COP20 here in this milestone year sends a powerful message: commitment to nature, to dialogue, and to action. This COP is historic for another reason. We celebrate 50 years since CITES entered into force. 5 decades of tireless work by parties to ensure that international trade in wild animals and plants does not threaten their survival. That principle is as relevant today as it was in 1975, perhaps even more so. Because pressures on wildlife have never been greater. Population growth, globalization, shifting markets, these forces are accelerating. And yet, CITES stands strong, science-based, trade-focused, and resolute against illegal trade. COP20 will set the course for the next 50 years. To succeed, we must focus on what matters most for conservation and align our resources to deliver impact. Our agenda is ambitious: 120 documents, 350 decisions, and over 250 species, from okapi and hyenas to ginseng and Brazil wood, and aquatic species like sea cucumbers, eels, sharks, and rays. The Secretariat, with just 22 staff, supports nearly 3,000 participants here today. And parties have worked tirelessly, 40 working groups during the last intersessional period alone. This is the scale of our mission. But none of this is possible without adequate funding. Without resources, we cannot implement the program of work, assist parties, or tackle the biodiversity crisis. The stakes could not be higher: the survival of species and the health of ecosystems for generations to come. Speaking of generations, I would like to take this opportunity to honor our dear colleagues, Penny, Virginia, Pascal, Pia, Philippe, and Yuan, who accepted agreed terminations due to budget constraints after decades of dedicated service. Their contributions have strengthened this convention immeasurably. The next generation of CITES Secretariat staff will build on this foundation with the same neutrality and unwavering commitment to serve our parties. This is a good moment, talking about dedicated staff, to announce that as part of our CITES 50 celebration, each of you has received a commemorative magnetic pin, an emblem that cooperation, dedication, and shared vision define this convention. It is in this spirit that I proudly announce the winners of the CITES 50th Anniversary Photo Contest. These are Emerson Javier Medina Huaman from Peru, Piotr Nazrecki of Poland, Rui Kang Wang of the People's Republic of China, and Izzy Sasada of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Let's please congratulate them. Their photographs, alongside the 12 exceptional finalists, are now showcased in the CITES 50 photography exhibition just outside the Committee 2 meeting room. Thank you to our members of the jury, and congratulations to the winners and finalists. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin this COP, let us work with clarity and ambition to overcome financial constraints, address complex global challenges, and harness technology and data for smarter decisions. CITES is multilateralism in action, proof that cooperation delivers results for people and planet. Our collective action is the only way to secure a future where wildlife thrives, and partnerships are at the heart of our success. Our joint work with the biological diversity, migratory species, Ramsar, and World Heritage Conventions, for example, our work with the Collaborative Partnership on Sustainable Wildlife Management, the Collaborative Partnership on Sustainable Management of Forests, and partners like IUCN, Traffic, and the International Consortium to Combat Wildlife Crime, and many others, shows that multilateralism works. Together, we ensure that we hear all voices and mainstream wildlife conservation in other intergovernmental processes. In many ways, our work today is a modern Silk Road, not for goods alone, but for knowledge, commitments, and action to safeguard life on Earth. This meeting is our opportunity to chart a sustainable path forward. Let us unite to strengthen the convention and champion multilateralism so that wild species thrive, ecosystems flourish, and the legacy we pass on to future generations is one of resilience and hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we express our gratitude and now escort the highly esteemed guests. The panel sessions will begin in a few minutes. We kindly ask all other participants and guests to remain seated. Ochilish marosimida ishtirok etgan martabali mehmonlarimizga minnatdorlik bildiramiz, ularni kuzatib qo'yamiz. Bir necha daqiqalardan so'ng panel muhokamalari sessiyasi o'z ishini davom ettiradi. Qolgan ishtirokchilardan o'z joylarini tark etmasliklarini so'raymiz. Once again, we would like to express our gratitude and now escort the highly esteemed guests. Yana bir bor ochilish marosimida ishtirok etgan martabali mehmonlarimizga minnatdorligimizni bildiramiz va ularni mamnuniyat ila kuzatib qo'yamiz. Dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. The opening ceremony of CITES COP20 has successfully concluded, and in just a few minutes we will begin the plenary session. While preparations are underway, allow me to share some key information about the CITES Convention and today's meeting. The plenary session will begin shortly. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, better known as CITES, was signed in 1973 in Washington and entered into force in 1975. Today, 185 countries are parties to the Convention. Its core purpose is to ensure that international trade in rare animals and plants does not threaten their survival in the wild. More than 40,900 species are protected under CITES, including 6,610 animal species and 34,310 plant species. Why is CITES important? Between 2015 and 2021, nearly 4,000 cases of illegal wildlife trade were recorded across 162 countries, and 3,250 of these involved species listed in the CITES appendices. These figures demonstrate the following. Illegal trade is a global threat to nature, and international cooperation is the only way to stop it. Uzbekistan joined CITES in 1997. Today, 91 animal species and 17 plant species listed in the CITES are registered in our country. Among them, the saiga, argali, Bukhara deer, Central Asia, tortoise, and many other unique species. In the coming days, more than 100 documents will be reviewed across 18 thematic areas, and the agenda also includes the signing of the Samarkand Declaration by the Central Asian countries, the holding of more than 150 side events, the adoption of important decisions on species status change, trade management, and biodiversity conservation. CITES COP20 will become the largest environmental event in the history of Uzbekistan. Around 3,000 participants from around 185 countries are expected. Governments, scientists, experts, international organizations, the private sector, and youth networks. As the host country, Uzbekistan will present initiatives on establishing specialized breeding centers and plantations, restoring populations of rare species, combating poaching, introducing sustainable mechanism for the use of natural resources. Hosting such a large-scale event in Uzbekistan provides the entire region with opportunities for positioning Samarkand as a new global platform for nature conservation, expanding regional cooperation in Central Asia, promoting green initiatives and sustainable development projects, strengthening the country's international environmental standing, introducing new tools to counter illegal trade and poaching. Distinguished guests, dear participants, we will now begin the plenary session. I kindly ask all guests to take their seats. Welcome to CITES COP20, the global conference where decisions shaping the future of our planet are made. And we would like to invite the moderator of our plenary session to our stage. We are now commencing the plenary session. We kindly invite the moderator of the panel session to the stage to begin the discussion.
morning, everyone. We're going to start the meeting. Please take your seats. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Samarkand and to the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. I will now open the meeting with agenda item number 1, election of chair, alternate chair, vice chairs of the meeting, and the chairs of Committee 1 and 2. The Standing Committee formed a selection committee in line with the terms of reference and the agreed procedures for the selection of nominees for the officers to serve at the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. The details were published in Notification 2024-119 on October 21st, 2024. At its 79th meeting, the Standing Committee confirmed the nomination of the following officers for COP20. Chair of the Conference, Mr. Aziz Abu Hakaimov, Advisor to the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan on Ecology and the Chair of the National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Alternate Chair of the Conference, Mr. Alisher Samalov, Advisor to the Chair of the National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Vice Chair of the Conference, Professor Patience Gandiwa of Zimbabwe, and Mr. Ajit Karn of Nepal. Chair of Committee 1, Dr. Matthias Lorscher of Switzerland. Chair of Committee 2, Dr. Anna Wong of Singapore. Chair of the Credentials Committee, Mr. Abba Sanko from Senegal. I invite you to confirm these officers. Thank you, and over to you, Chair.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Aziz. Dear friends, thank you for the election. It is an honor to host and chair this important meeting. I hope that we will have a respectful and successful deliberation. Considering the number of agenda items at this COP, I also hope that we all remain efficient in our discussions. Considering the suggestions made in the notification 2025/112 on measures to enhance meeting efficiency, in accordance with the rule of 18 of the Rules of Procedure, I propose to put time limit of 3 minutes for parties and 2 minutes for observers organizations. And let's move to agenda item 2, adoption of the agenda. The first item to be considered under administrative and financial matters is the adoption of the agenda document COP20, doc number 2. And now I invite comments from parties. Parties, the floor is open. I'd like to give the floor to Brazil, please. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Since this is the first time Brazil is taking the floor, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Uzbek government for its warm hospitality and for its successful planning of this event. Well, Brazil would kindly suggest changing the discussion on the document Trade in Endemic Species, CoP20, Doc 73, from Committee 2 to Committee 1, preferably on Friday morning, in the same time it was originally proposed, after the discussion Conservation of and Trade in Sea Cucumbers, CoP20, Doc 90, in Committee 1. This is because Brazil is willing to take on board suggestions received from both parties and the Secretary, so as not to overlap with the discussion on legal acquisition findings. The objective of the document Trade in Endemic Species, CoP20, Doc 73, is to address the scientific concept.
Sorry, I apologize for Brazil for interrupting. We have not reached this agenda item yet. I would be grateful if you could wait until we have come to this agenda item. Please.
President,
we are now considering agenda item 2, please.
We are asking to change the order of the agenda, Mr. President. That's why we are justifying why we are asking to change the agenda of this specific item without going into the substantive matters of the item, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brazil, for your intervention. And now I would like to give a floor to Secretariat to respond to intervention from Brazil. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Brazil. We have noted your point. However, we're at the agenda item 2, adoption of the agenda. I believe that your intervention is related to agenda item 3 on the working program. Thank you, Chair.
Any other comments from parties, please? If no, I would like to invite for comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations. It's no request. And now I invite comments from observer organizations. Observers, you have the floor. Thank you. Based on intervention in support, the agenda is hereby adopted. Thank you. The next agenda item is agenda item 3, adoption of working program. I invite the Secretariat to introduce the working program for consideration by the Conference of Parties. Please.
Thank you, Chair. The first draft working program for the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to CITES was approved by the Standing Committee at its 78th meeting. Since then, the working program was revised twice. First, in light of the documents submitted by parties, and later, through discussions with the chairs-elect of Committee 1 and Committee 2. I would like to draw your attention to the latest revisions of the working program, which is CoP20 Doc 3 Rev 1, published on 4th of November 2025. It contains 2 annexes, Annex 1, which is the provisional working program for the plenary, and Annex 2, which is the provisional working program for the committees 1 and 2. The Secretariat would like to inform parties of one change to the working program, which concerns today's schedule. As you have heard from the opening remarks of the CITES Secretary General, we have a very packed schedule ahead. Parties may recall that COP19 had 2 evening sessions to accommodate for the extra time needed to go through the large number of documents. Unfortunately, COP20 does not have any provisions for extra sessions. Consequently, the Secretariat, in consultation with the chairs-elect of Committee 1 and Committee 2, issued notification to the parties number 2025-112 on measures to enhance meeting efficiency on 3rd October 2025. The notification contains proposals for time-saving measures, including setting time limits for the introduction of proposals and working documents, as well as the interventions. The Secretariat would like to propose that these time limits be put to Committees 1 and 2, just as the Chair of the Plenary has mentioned for the plenary session. Lastly, the Secretariat would like to inform the meeting that this session will end at 1300, and regional meetings will take place from 1500, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat, for having presented the working program. And now I invite further comments from parties on the working program. Parties, the floor is open. I give the floor to Brazil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the clarification. We thought that since we are proposing a change from Committee 2 to Committee 1, the right place would be the discussion in the agenda, but thank you for the clarification. Well, so Brazil is suggesting changing the discussion on document trade in endemic species, COP20, Docs 73, from Committee 2 to Committee 1. And the rationale is that Brazil is willing to take on board suggestions received from both parties and the Secretariat so as to not overlap with the discussions on legal acquisition findings. We believe that the Committee 1, which is responsible for making recommendations to the conference on our proposal to amend the appendices of the Convention and on any matter primarily biological nature, should be most suitable body to address this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brazil. I note that you would like to move agenda item 73, trade in endemic species, from Committee 2 to Committee 1. Can you please indicate which date and session you would like the item to be moved to?
Sure. I did that for my previous intervention, but I can repeat again. Preferably on Friday morning, in the same time it was originally proposed, after the discussion conservation of and trade in sea cucumbers, COP20, Doc 90 in Committee 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. I would like to open the floor to parties to see if there are any objections to proposed change by Brazil to move agenda item 73 from Committee 2 to Committee 1 on morning Friday. Any objections? Thank you. Oh, please, United States of America, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, as the first time the United States takes the floor, we express our immense appreciation for the government of Uzbekistan for your gracious hosting and the warm hospitality we have received in Samarkand. We acknowledge the Secretariat for their tireless work and dedication in organizing the meeting and supporting the parties, particularly given the ambitious agenda. We also recognize the parties and observers who have traveled from across the globe to attend COP20 and to carry forward the essential task of ensuring that international trade in wild plants and animals is legal, traceable, and does not threaten the survival of species. We were proud to be the first party to join CITES in 1975, and the United States remains firmly committed to this objective and focusing on the core mandate of the Convention as we celebrate 50 years. And I turn to Ms. Aziz to present our objection.
Thank you very much, Chair. The United States would like document 73 to remain in Committee 2, since it deals with primarily implementation and enforcement issues.
And as we understood, US wants to keep it in Committee 2. So, any other interventions? Thank you. And now I invite comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations. I give you the floor to New Zealand. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start by also thanking Uzbekistan for its very warm and wonderful hospitality, and thank the Secretariat for its efforts in setting up this really important meeting. New Zealand would join with Brazil and support agenda item 73 being moved to Committee 1, because it has a lot of scientific reference in it too. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. Please, any other interventions? I would like to give the floor to European Union, please. Next, Argentina.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to thank for the warm hospitality from Uzbekistan and to the CITES Secretariat for all the work in preparation of this meeting. We would like to second the comment from the US and the UN's member states would prefer to keep the discussion on document 73 in Committee 2. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. And now I give you floor to Argentina. Please, floor is yours.
Gracias, presidente. Como es la primera vez que intervenimos, queremos agradecer al gobierno de Uzbekistán y a la Secretaría de CITES por la organización de esta brillante reunión. Nosotros queremos apoyar lo manifestado por Brasil y Nueva Zelanda de trasladar este punto del Comité 2 al Comité 1. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And next, I would like to give a floor to Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nuestra delegación también apoya la sugerencia de Brasil para transferir el tema 73 al Comité 1, al igual que otras delegaciones. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. I would like to give the floor to Ecuador.
Gracias, señor presidente. Ecuador de igual forma apoya la propuesta de trasladar el punto 73 al Comité 1. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ecuador. And next, I would like to give a floor to Canada.
Thank you, Chair. And Canada joins other countries in thanking you and thanking Uzbekistan for the gracious welcome here and thanking the Secretariat for their hard work to prepare this meeting. With regard to the question, Canada can be flexible regarding where this item is taken up. We would recommend that this discussion perhaps be taken to the Bureau in accordance with Rule 17, as the Bureau has the duty to ensure the effective management of this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to give a floor to Dominican Republic.
Gracias, Chair. Gracias a Uzbekistán por recibirnos, a la Secretaría por la organización de la COP. República Dominicana quiere alinearse con la propuesta de Brasil.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, as we see, we don't reach a consensus. That's why we propose to consider this question at the Bureau. Maybe I will ask first from non-party. And now I invite comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations. I don't see any request for the floor. And now I invite comments from observer organizations. Observers, you have the floor. No any requests. And thank you for your interventions. And I propose to agree on a working program except the agenda item 73, which will be taken up at the Bureau. Thank you. And next, okay, sorry. It's no double. And now I turn to agenda item 4, rules of procedure. The rules of procedure adopted by the 19th meeting of the Conference of the Parties remain in effect unless amended by decision of Conference of Parties. I would like to draw your attention to document CoP20, document 4. I invite the chair of Standing Committee to introduce document CoP20, Doc 4, United States. You have the floor, please.
Chair. The Standing Committee considered and agreed to propose to the Conference of the Parties 3 amendments to Rule 25, Paragraph 6, as set out in Document 4. The amendments are related to proposals to amend the appendices that address the same taxon but with different effects. In short, the Standing Committee proposes the following with regard to the introduction: consideration and decision on such overlapping amendment proposals. First, the chair shall advise the conference or Committee 1 that the proposals are overlapping and clearly indicate the implications of the adoption of one proposal for the others. Second, the chair shall invite the respective proponents to introduce each proposal with overlapping taxa before any of them is submitted for discussion or decision. Concerning amendment proposals that are only partially overlapping, the following procedure is proposed in the document. If, in relation to the same taxon, the adoption of one proposal necessarily implies the rejection of another proposal, the latter proposal shall nevertheless be submitted to decision in relation to any other remaining taxon, so that the decision-making would continue on any taxon that is not overlapping. Finally, the document is making it clear that paragraph 6 will have no effect on the procedures of the other paragraphs of Rule 25. The Standing Committee did not reach a decision on the so-called stepwise approach to decide on overlapping proposals incrementally from least to most restrictive, with the last proposal adopted being the decision of the conference. Instead, it requested the Secretariat and the chair of the Standing Committee to propose a draft decision to the COP to direct the Standing Committee to continue these discussions in the next intersessional period. In conclusion, the Conference of the Parties is invited to A, adopt the amended rules of procedure as set out in Annex 2 of the document, B, adopt the draft decision in Annex 1, and C, delete decision 18.1 Rev COP 19. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair of Standing Committee, for introduction. And now I invite comments from parties. The floor is open. And now I would like to give the floor to Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Since this is the first time that Zimbabwe takes the floor, let me congratulate you on the assumption of your responsibility as chair of the meeting. I also wish to thank the government of Uzbekistan for warmly hosting us and the Secretariat for the excellent organization of the meeting. We appreciate the work done by the Interseasonal Working Group on the Rules of Procedure, in which Zimbabwe also participated. We would have preferred Rule 25 to remain unchanged, as we do not see the rationale of changing it, but in the spirit of compromise, we are willing to consider and adopt the amendments proposed in paragraph 6 of Rule 25.6 contained in Annex 2 of the present document. At this moment, Zimbabwe strongly opposes the adoption of draft decision to continue consideration of the possible inclusion of a stepwise approach in Rule 25.6 contained in Annex 1 to the present document. Introduction of each proposal prior to submitting any of them for discussion and decision allows the chair to provide information on the implication of each proposal, hence allowing voting parties to exercise their rights with full knowledge and having given due regard to all proposals on the same taxation. This provides adequate justice to all parties. We also propose deletion of decision 18.1. We refer to CoP19. The generally accepted principles established over years without any difficulties are that trade restrictions should be imposed only when they are really necessary, and that any measures introduced should be least restrictive to trade. It is unclear on what is the legitimate objective of introducing this stepwise approach. Hence, we wish to urge proponents of this stepwise approach to consider other reasonably available alternatives to achieve the same objectives. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. And next I give the floor for intervention to Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. We acknowledge the submission of multiple proposals regarding the revision of Rule 25.6. To ensure a comprehensive and effective evaluation, we recommend further discussion of this proposal, particularly focusing on exploring the stepwise approach in greater detail. This approach requires careful consideration in order to balance regulatory objective with practical implementation prior to proceeding to the adoption phase. We support the conference's current methodology of evaluating proposal, starting with the least restrictive and progressing to the most. Proposals that impose greater trade restrictions should only be considered if less restriction options are not adopted. The structured approach ensures a fair and systematic review process that prioritizes trade facilitation while addressing conservation concerns. Therefore, Indonesia is concerned regarding the proposed amendment to Rule 25.6, which prioritizes proposals with the most restrictive trade measure. Indonesia calls for the current order under Rule 25.6 to be retained in order to uphold the balance of conservation and sustainable use set out in the Convention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia, for interventions. Any other requests for interventions from parties? Israel, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Since this is also for us the first time we're taking the floor at this meeting, we want to congratulate you, sir, on your appointment as chair of this meeting and thank the government of Uzbekistan for hosting this meeting and for the Secretariat for all their hard work in preparing so many documents so efficiently for us to work on. On this particular issue, as was mentioned in the introduction, this was discussed in an intersessional working group in the Standing Committee. Israel is a member of the Standing Committee as an alternate for Europe and also was a member of this working group. This has been going on, discussions about this particular Rule 25.6 for quite a number of years, and we would hope not to have a rehashing of this entire discussion here at the COP. We have reached in our working group a compromise solution for this particular COP, which is presented in the document. It's an excellent compromise because it allows us to move forward with our work. But having said that, it is a compromise that doesn't solve all the issues. Therefore, we feel that there still is need to carry this forward, further discussion, but that can be done at the Standing Committee and not here. So we would propose, sir, that we accept the document's proposed changes to 25.6 for this COP and accept the decision so that this can be carried forward into the Standing Committee, which will decide whether there is need for further discussion on this issue in the future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Israel. And next, I give the floor to United States of America. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The United States echoes the sentiment of Israel as the chair of the Standing Committee and the chair of this intersessional working group. There was deliberate discussions over the last intersessional period, and we support the recommendations of the document, including the draft decision to continue this discussion in the next intersessional period. We think the draft decision will give parties the opportunity to consider the best approach going forward to make decisions on the best available science and trade data. Thank you.
Thank you, US. And next floor, I would like to give to South Africa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and congratulations on your appointment. As this is South Africa's first opportunity to take the floor, we wish to congratulate the State Party of Uzbekistan for welcoming us to the beautiful city of Samarkand. We also commend the Secretariat for its excellent preparation of this gathering of the parties to CITES. South Africa welcomes the work undertaken by the Standing Committee and the Intersessional Working Group in reviewing Rule 25.6. We support the proposed amendments outlined in paragraph 14 of document CoP20, Doc 4, which require all overlapping proposals to be submitted before any decisions are taken and ensure that remaining elements of multi-taxon proposals continue to be considered, even if one element becomes redundant. We regard these improvements as an important step toward enhancing fairness, predictability, and transparency, and we believe they will support balanced decision-making across a broad range of taxa. In the interest of clarity and practical application, South Africa requests that the Secretariat prepare a concise one-page decision tree explaining how Rule 25.6 will be applied in practice, particularly regarding the status of remaining proposals once one has been adopted. We support Zimbabwe's approach regarding the proposed stepwise approach, where South Africa notes the absence of consensus within the working group. We further observe that the practical benefits of a stepwise approach remain unclear. While we recognize that the matter may require further consideration, we recommend that any future work on this approach be conducted under a clear mandate with broad consultation and balanced consideration of all party interests. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. Next, I give the floor to European Union. Please.
Thank you. The EU and its member states support the proposed amendments to the Rule 25.6, as well as the decision to continue discussions on the stepwise approach in the intersessional period. Thank you.
Thank you, EU. And next, I give the floor to United Kingdom. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Since it's the first time that the UK is taking the floor here at COP20, we'd like to thank Uzbekistan for your gracious hosting of this conference and wish all delegates well for a successful COP. With regard to document 4, we would echo the comments of the US, Israel and EU and would support the recommendations as drafted. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, floor is yours, Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. México también se suma a las delegaciones que apoyan el documento con las enmiendas como lo propone la Secretaría, de manera que se tenga un enfoque gradual, analizando primero las propuestas del mismo taxón, que sean menos restrictivas y gradualmente para que se tenga la oportunidad de conocer todas las propuestas y que haya claridad, que el presidente indique exactamente qué significa cada una de ellas. Así como la Unión Europea, Estados Unidos e Israel, apoyamos que se adopte el documento tal y como está. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Any other request for intervention from parties? I don't see any request. And next, I would like to invite comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations. Floor is open. I don't see any requests. Thank you. And next, I invite comments from observer organizations. Please. No. Any requests? Thank you. Dear colleagues, dear delegates, and now I would like to propose to adopt the rules of procedures on next plenary. And sorry. Sorry, and now we had some consultancies, and we would like to propose to adopt the rules of procedures with amendments and postpone the decision for next plenary. Thank you. If there are any objections, we will proceed to the next items. And thank you. And now I turn to agenda item 5.1, establishment of Credentials Committee. I invite the Secretary to share the nominations for members of the Credentials Committee. Secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, distinguished delegates. I'm pleased to inform you of the following nominations of the Credentials Committee of the Conference of the Parties. The conference has already elected Mr. Abba Sonko from Senegal as the chair of the committee to represent the region of Africa. Asia has nominated Mr. Ali Mansour from Bahrain. The European region, has nominated Ms. Heidi Fuhrman from the European Union. North America has nominated Philippe Lepoul from Canada, and Oceania has nominated Ms. Mary Madonna Palik from Papua New Guinea. At this point, we have not received a nomination from the region of Central and South America and the Caribbean. The chair may wish to invite a representative from this region to see whether we have an update on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat, for the nominations. I invite comments from parties. The floor is open. I don't see any request from the parties. And next, I invite comments from non-party states, intergovernmental organizations, please. Thank you. I invite comments from observer organizations. Having heard no objections from the floor, the Credential Committee is established by acclamation. The members are Mr. Abba Sonko from Senegal, representing Africa as the chair of the committee, Mr. Ali Mansour from Bahrain, representing Asia, Mr. Heidi Furman from European Union, representing Europe, Mr. Philip Lulup from Canada, representing North America, and Ms. Mary Madonna Palik from Papua New Guinea. The Central and South Africa and Caribbean region may nominate representatives at a later time. Acclamation. This closes the agenda item. Thank you, colleagues. I turn to agenda item 6, admission of observers. And I invite the Secretariat to introduce document CoP20, Doc 6.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. In accordance with Article 11, Paragraph 7 of the Convention, all bodies and agencies that are technically qualified in protection, conservation, or management of wild fauna and flora, and have informed the Secretariat by 25th of September 2025 of their desire to be represented at the present meeting as observers, are listed in Annex to document CoP20, Doc 6. The Secretariat further notes that the following observers have expressed their interest in attending the present meeting after the deadline. Firstly, as non-party state, the Cook Islands. And next, as observer organizations, we have Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Center for Biodiversity, ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, League of Arab States, Royal United Services Institute for Defense and Security Studies, and Secretariat of the Southern African Development Community. The Secretariat seeks formal acceptance of the observers listed in Annex of the document CoP20 Doc 6, as well as those just mentioned orally. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. I invite the Conference of the Parties to accept the observers as listed in the Annex to document CoP20 Doc 6 and those listed orally by the Secretariat. I invite comments from parties. The floor is open. Please. Thank you. Next, I invite comments from non-party states, intergovernmental organizations. Thank you. And lastly, I invite comments from observer organizations. I don't see any objections. The admission of all observers as found at the Annex CoP20 Document 6 Annex 1, as well as those listed orally, is agreed. We will now consider a few strategic matters, starting with agenda item 12, the committee reports and recommendations. I would like to draw your attention to document CoP20 Doc 12.1.1. This document was submitted by the chair of the Standing Committee. The Conference of the Parties is invited to note this report. I would like to first invite comments from parties. The floor is open, please. I give the floor to Canada, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to give a special thank you to Dr. Nam, the Chair of the Standing Committee, for her comprehensive report and her excellent chairing of the Standing Committee. Dr. Nam and Ms. Aziz have successfully guided us through one of the most extensive intersessional agendas we have ever experienced in the Standing Committee. I want to underline that Canada takes very seriously her concerns regarding the workload of the Convention and wish to express our desire to have a comprehensive discussion about how, collectively, we need to address this situation. We are very mindful of the need for ourselves as a conference of parties to find potential solutions and to set the tone of the work to come. Canada has reviewed all the documents on this agenda and all the proposed decisions, with a view to critically examining which ones we would prioritize for the effective implementation of the Convention. We note with some concern that if all proposed decisions were to be adopted at this Conference of the Parties, we would accept over 300 decisions, of which over 200 are directed to the committees or the secretariats. So we look forward to our deliberations and urge all parties to pay careful attention to the relative need and practicality of agreeing these decisions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Canada. Next, I give the floor to China. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. This is the first time for China to take the floor. We have the greatest appreciation to Uzbekistan for your hosting this meeting and your warm hospitality. For this item, firstly, China deeply appreciates the concerted efforts made by the Standing Committee and the Chair, Mr. Rosemary Nam. Secondly, China agrees that the CITES must remain focused on core issues and should not lose sight of the critical human dimension in conservation. Therefore, China respectfully recommends the Standing Committee consider how to provide stronger compliance capacity support for the least developed countries. Thirdly, China has concerns about the rational motivation and feasibility of adding function to the CITES at the present time. As the report notes, the existing financial and time resources do not permit the Standing Committee to undertake even more works. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. And next, I'd like to give the floor to Kenya. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Kenya is taking the floor for the first time. We want to appreciate the host country through you, Chair, and the Secretariat for the excellent organization of this meeting. Chair, Kenya would like to appreciate the excellent leadership of the Chair of the Standing Committee in the person of Dr. Rosemary Gam, especially for steering the Africa region through the African Elephant Dialogue process to implement decisions 19.167 and 19.168 of the COP, leading to the review and amendment of annotation A10 on trade in elephants as detailed in her report. While we may not say at this time we have, as a region, fully agreed to the text of the annotation, as we are still negotiating in our coordination meetings, and we are hopeful that we'll be presenting to this meeting the agreed final text. We are happy that the Chair of the Standing Committee, to a very great extent, helped to get to where we are, and we are grateful to her and the Standing Committee. As a region, we welcome Ms. Naima Aziz, Rosemary's successor, for the remaining period of the term of the USA as the chair of the Standing Committee, and wish Dr. Rosemary the best of the best in her new phase of life. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. Any other requests for interventions from parties? Thank you. And now I invite comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations. Please, floor is open. Thank you. Next, I invite comments from observer organizations. Please. Thank you, colleagues. Based on the interventions, the Conference of the Parties notes the report of the Standing Committee in document CoP20, Doc 12.1.1. Next agenda item is 12.2.1, report of the Chair of the Animals Committee. I would like to draw your attention to the document CoP20, Doc 12.2.1. I invite the Chair of the Animals Committee, Mr. Matthias Lortscher, to introduce the document. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I will be very brief, but have to take the floor, as in this report, the Animals Committee requests the COP to make some decisions in addition to just noting the report. In relation to leopards in Africa, the roadmap for the conservation of the leopard in Africa had not yet been updated by IUCN in consultation with the range states at our last meeting at AC 33. The Animals Committee therefore proposes the renewal of decisions 19.2.11 and 19.2.12 to COP20 in order to be able to review that roadmap. In relation to the periodic review of species included in the appendices 1 and 2, the Animals and Plants Committees agreed to propose to the Conference of the Parties the deletion of criterion D in paragraph 3 BII of Resolution Conf 14.8 Ref COP19 on periodic review of species included in the appendices 1 and 2. And finally, in relation to captive breeding of Sri Lankan agamids, the Animals Committee proposes the deletion of the relevant decision 18175 as it considers the work completed on this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair of the Animals Committee, for introduction. I note that the recommendations in paragraph 27 of documents COP20 Doc 12.2.1 include the adoption of amendment to Resolution Conference 14.6 Revision COP19 on periodic review of species included in Appendix 1 and 2, contained in Annex 2, the maintenance of decisions 19.211 and 19.212 on leopards, Panthera pardus in Africa, and the deletion of decision 18.175 on captive breeding of the Sri Lanka's agamids. And I also note that Secretariat has provided comments to the document. The Secretariat recommends the amendment to Resolution Conference 14.8, Revision COP19, and deletion of Decision 18.175, but does not recommend to renewal of decisions 19.211 and 19.212. I invite comments from parties on whether you agree with the 3 recommendations from Animals Committee. Please, floor is open. I give the floor to New Zealand, please.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand supports all 3 proposals, but particularly in relation to the proposed changes to Resolution COP 14.8 in paragraph 25. It's a fairly bare paragraph that doesn't really explain the logic behind that change. And just so the background is that there are currently 4 criteria used to exclude taxa for being chosen from that periodic review process. And compared with the other 3 criteria, this 4th criteria that we're proposing to delete is very vague. And it says species for which it's clear there has been no change in the status, range, or trade, and for which there is no possibility to need to amend the appendices. When we looked at tightening that definition, we actually decided that it could simply be deleted because it doesn't add anything valuable and effectively requires a periodic review to be done before excluding it from the periodic review. So, yeah, that's the background for why that has been deleted. But New Zealand suggests that the Animals Committee and Plants Committee could consider adding a new criterion to the resolution that would exclude those non-threatened taxa that have been included in Appendix 2 simply as lookalike species. Their inclusion in the appendices is independent of their conservation and management needs and trade characteristics. So that's something they could consider in the next intersessional period. I'd like to thank my colleagues on the Animals Committee for all the hard work that they've done in the last intersessional period. And reflecting the comments that Canada made in the discussion of the Standing Committee report is that I note and agree the concerns and the acknowledgements in paragraph 26 about the workload being placed on the Animals Committee. When I joined the committee at COP15 in 2010, there were 19 decisions directed to the Animals Committee. 4 COPs later, at COP19 in 2022, this had grown by 350% to 54 decisions directed to the Animals Committee. The size of the committee has not changed in this time, and there are still 24 hours in a day, and so the workload on individual members, and especially the chair, has reached an unsustainable level. Without Matthias Lurch's excellent chairmanship of the Animals Committee over the last 9 years, and with excellent support from the Secretariat, we would never have achieved so much as a committee and addressed almost all of the decisions directed our way. I take this opportunity to thank Matthias for all your dedicated work for the Animals Committee, including participating in scientific and technical workshops and meetings all over the globe. And I wish you a long and enjoyable retirement and hope you will finally make it to New Zealand. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. Next, I give the floor to European Union. Please.
Thank you, Chair. The EU and its member states support the recommendations in the well-written report that shows the tremendous work that has been achieved by the Animals Committee, with big thanks to the AC Chair, who guided us successfully during the last years with his extensive experience and deep dedication to CITES. Regarding the decisions 19211 and 19212 on leopards in Africa, we agree with the Secretariat that the work under these decisions may relate to the work under the African Carnivore Initiative. That said, we note that the roadmap for the conservation of leopards is not specifically mentioned in the revised decisions under Doc 16.3 on the African Carnivore Initiative. Therefore, to enable the Animals Committee to review the updated roadmap at one point, we support renewing decisions 19.211 and 19.212 as recommended by the Animals Committee. We support adoption of the amendment to Resolution Con 14.a for CoP19 on the periodic review as proposed in the document. And finally, we also support deletion of Decision 18.175 on captive breeding of Sri Lankan agamids, as the AC correctly noted that there has been no international trade after the CITES listing, so that there is no need for further actions on these species. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Next, I give the floor to China. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. China deeply appreciates the concerted efforts made by the Animal Committee and Chair Mr. Matthias Rocher. Regarding 3.b.2.d, China kindly remind of all parties that this deletion would significantly increase the burden of conducting periodic reviews by the Animal Committee, which already face serious financial and time resources scarcity. In another sentence, we must exercise restraint so that the Animal Committee can consistently devote itself to the most important issues. Moreover, no change in the status, range, or state or trade could be determined by many sources, such as scientific population assessment, monitoring on trade, and other research which is grounded in science and evidence. In conclusion, China does not support the deletion of 3.b.2.d in Annex 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Dear colleagues, any other requests for interventions from parties? I don't see any requests. Next, I will invite comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations. Floor is open. Thank you. I invite comments from observer organizations. Please. Thank you. Dear colleagues from China, I would like to clarify your proposals on these amendments. Once again, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Our proposal is that China does not support the deletion of D in 3b in Annex 2. Thank you.
Thank you, China. Thank you, dear colleagues. Based on the interventions, the Conference of the Parties, based on the majority, notes the report and adopts the amendment to Resolution Conf 14.8, Ref CoP19 on periodic review of species included in Appendix 1 and 2 contained in Annex 2, and also adopts the maintenance of decision 19.211 and 19.212 on leopards, Panthera pardus in Africa, and adopts the deletion of decision 18.175 on captive breedings of the Sri Lanka's agamids. Thank you. Any other interventions? Thank you, colleagues. Dear colleagues, the next agenda item is 12.3.1, report of the chair of the Plants Committee. I would like to draw your attention to the document CoP20 Doc 12.3.1 of the Conference of the Parties is invited to note this report. I would like to first invite comments from parties. The floor is open, please. I don't see any requests from parties. Oh, sorry. I give the floor to European Union. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states, and we really welcome the report by the Chair of the Plants Committee, and we commend the Chair, intersessional working groups and the Committee on all the activities and work carried out. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Any other requests to interventions? Thank you. Next, I invite comments from non-party states and intergovernmental organizations. Please. Thank you. I invite comments from observer organizations. It's no any objections. The Conference of the Parties notes the report of the Plants Committee in document CoP20 Doc 12.3.1. Thank you. And also, I would like to thank all the chairs of the committees and intersessional working groups for their hard work. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, let's move to next agenda item 14. Addressing the workload and enhancing efficiency of the convention through the permanent committees. This document has been submitted by the chairs of the Standing Committee, Animals and Plants Committees, and the Finance and Budget Subcommittee of the Standing Committee. I understand that the chair of the Animals Committee will introduce the document. Chair of the Animals Committee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the chairs of the CITES Standing Committee, Plans Committee, Animals Committee, and the Finance and Budget Subcommittee of the Standing Committee. As we have heard, we have seen a steady increase of decision directed to the committees, parties, and the Secretariat. From COP15 in 2015 to COP19 in 2022, we have seen roughly a threefold increase in the work to be accomplished. At the same time, as you all know, the resources to accomplish that workload have not increased. This workload has caused the parties and the committees and inadvertently the Secretariat to reach a breaking point where more work cannot be tackled with the current system. First attempts to deal with this workload have been implemented at the last Standing Committee, SC78, in 2025. Despite these efforts, the Standing Committee was not able to consider 5 agenda items, indicating the need to consider further measures to address the current challenge. The increased workload not only has repercussions for the work of the committees, but also on implementation of the Convention. We have listed just a few of those in paragraph 7 of the document. The current situation thus has brought us to a critical point where addressing the increasing demands and expectations of every issue simultaneously has already gone beyond the capability of the Convention's operational framework. Urgent action is therefore required to ensure that the essential function of the Convention remains effective into the future through improved priority and focus of our work program. We, the chairs of the permanent committees, have collectively recognized that prioritizing the intercession work program for the committees is a good starting point. We propose to establish a preliminary set of assessment factors that could serve as benchmarks for planning post-COP20 work of the respective committees. See Annex 2. The idea for the moment is that tasks, decisions, with the highest number of applicable assessment factors would be proposed to be addressed as a higher work priority for the committees in their intercession work plan. In Annex 3, we have presented an example of how these factors would be used. Additional considerations for the refinement of these factors may include whether and how items could be weighted under that matrix, and how the sequence of advice between committees and the interreliance of decisions should be added as a consideration to ensure the committees can work cohesively to address the same priorities. Consequently, the draft decisions found in Annex 1 aim to refine the proposed prioritization matrix and explore innovative ways to focus more effectively on the Convention's core mandates. These decisions would allow parties to adopt a systematic and resource-efficient approach to managing the increasing workload to implement the Convention. In our discussions leading up to this COP, we have also realized that we may need to add some additional decisions to make sure that already in the first iteration of applying the matrix, parties may have the opportunity to provide their views as well. I'm ready with some ideas to address this concern and can provide additional draft decision if the parties wish me to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair of the Animals Committee, for introduction. The Conference of the Parties is invited to adopt the draft decision on prioritizing the workload for enhancing the efficiency of the Convention through the permanent committees contained in Annex 1 to the present document. I would like to open the floor for parties to make any comments on the proposed draft decision. Make sure to be precise on your comments, suggest text changes, and be specific about where you want to see the changes. Floor is open, please. Now I give the floor to European Union. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. In recent years, the complexity of CITES has grown significantly, leading to increased challenges for the Secretariat, committees, and parties. So we acknowledge the arduous workload created by this complexity. It's imperative to refocus on CITES foundational objectives. Identifying practical steps forward will ensure CITES remains effective in conserving global biodiversity. So we would like to acknowledge the efforts of and thank the chairs of the committees and the Secretariat, and in general we agree with the pathway presented in document 14 and can support the draft decisions as amended by the Secretariat. However, we feel we cannot afford to defer action until the next Conference of Parties. It is crucial that we begin prioritizing our initiatives immediately. We feel that the prioritization matrix, although it's a very good basis, is not yet agreed by the parties and requires additional work. We feel that in this current form, it still lacks some measurable criteria and weighting, and we feel that as such it may not necessarily lead to a more efficient process. So before we can meaningfully use it to guide work between the COPs, further refinement is needed to make it a transparent, evidence-based tool aligned with the CITES core mandate. And this is why we feel that some intersessional work on this is needed, and so we feel that it shouldn't be used in between. However, we are also open to consider possibly discussing it already in session in at this Conference of Parties. We would also like to urge all parties present here in Samarkand to critically evaluate our current agenda. Now at the onset of COP20, we really must prioritize the most consequential decisions and consider postponing less urgent matters, and really be willing to set aside those items that, while desirable, do not directly advance the core mission of CITES. In addition, we also need to consider whether all the intersessional work has to go through the Standing Committee. Similarly, we also consider that a review of the recurring agenda items and the working groups should also be done to assess what results they produce and whether their continuation is justified. We believe that it's important that the parties give a clear guidance to the Secretariat on what issues need to be prioritized, pending the discussion of the approach as proposed in document 14. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Next, I give the floor to China, please.
Thank you, Chair. China commends the permanent committee's hard work to maintain the effectiveness of the CITES. China notes that this proposal is aimed to enhance the work and the efficiency of the Convention. This is an ambitious objective, which could not be achieved without solid support of all parties. To this sense, we have the following recommendation. First, we believe that intersessional working groups are meant to support, not overtake, or work of the Standing Animal and Plants Committees and the Finance Subcommittee. Any financial resources required for intersessional work groups should be included in the budget for the committee. And if the work group is approved by COP20, the operation and the performance of intersessional work groups need or should be reported to COP21. Therefore, China would like to recommend a revision for paragraph B of 20.AA in Annex 1 as follows. Directed to the Standing Committee with the assistance of the Secretariat, 20.AA. The Standing Committee should, with the assistance of the Secretariat, letter A, establish an intersessional working group without external funding. B, report to COP21 about the operation and the performance of the intersessional working groups and make recommendations for the further action, if any, to be undertaken by the intersessional working group. Regarding the principles of being scientifically based and accountability, China had the following recommendations for revision of Annex 2. In the category of impacts to the overall effectiveness of the Convention, we have two recommended deletions. The first is to delete the phrase removing Appendix 3 for the item of Appendix 2 or Appendix 3 listed species frequently in international commercial trade. And the second is to delete the phrase address conservation concerns of Appendix 1 species This is because the importance of Appendix 1 species has been highlighted in the item of Appendix 1 species in international trade. Finally, the subheading contribution to function of AC and OPC needs to be revised to contribution to the core function of AC and OPC. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Next, I will go the floor to New Zealand, but before I would like to kindly ask you to clarify. Are you speaking on behalf of New Zealand or as a chair? Floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm speaking as the acting chair of the Finance and Budget Subcommittee and a co-sponsor of the document. I recall that the purpose of the prioritisation matrix is to guide the committee chairs in prioritising the intersessional work of the committees, with the idea that this would in turn help manage the workload at the committee meetings and would ultimately flow on to the agenda at the COP and its decisions, including decisions directed to the Secretariat. I have heard concerns that it is creating work for the Secretariat which was not its intention, and I suggest a small amendment to clarify that it is intended for use by the committee chairs. So at decision 20AA, I would just add a reference to the committee chairs in prioritising. So I'll read out now how that fits in. So A, establish an intersessional working group which includes the members of the Animals and Plants Committees to review and refine the draft prioritisation matrix for the purpose of guiding, and here's new words, the committee chairs in prioritising, that's the end of the new words, the intersessional work of the permanent committees, and it goes on to the end of the existing wording. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. I give you floor to Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nuestra delegación de manera general apoya los borradores de decisión para priorizar la carga de trabajo y mejorar la eficiencia del convenio a través de sus comités. Sin embargo, como lo indicó el presidente del Comité de Fauna, consideramos necesario que las partes tengan la oportunidad de proporcionar insumos sobre el proyecto de matriz de asignación de prioridades. Para esto, proponemos una decisión adicional dirigida a la Secretaría CITES de la siguiente manera. Sería la 20XX, que dice: la Secretaría deberá, inciso A, publicar una notificación a las partes en la que solicite opiniones y puntos de vista sobre el proyecto de matriz de asignación de prioridades presentada en el documento COP20 DOC 14. Inciso B, proveer al grupo de trabajo interseccional establecido según la decisión 20AA las respuestas a la notificación del inciso anterior para su consideración. Señor presidente, por otra parte, aunque la lista preliminar de factores de evaluación para la asignación de prioridades seguirá afinándose durante el siguiente periodo interseccional, México propone que el grupo de trabajo interseccional considere como parte de su mandato: 1. ¿Cuándo se aplicarán los criterios? 2. ¿Cuál será la ponderación? Y 3. ¿Quiénes aplicarán dichos criterios para definir prioridades? Este proceso de priorización debe iniciar desde las partes al presentar documentos en cualquiera de los comités, pues estos al final derivan en borradores de decisión de la COP. Aquí necesitamos tener un balance también para no limitar el derecho de las partes a someter aquellos puntos que consideren prioritarios para la implementación de esta convención. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Next, I give the floor to Brazil. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First, Brazil believes that this exercise is crucial importance to the work of the Convention, and precisely because of that, we think it's really important to be as inclusive as possible. So we completely agree with the suggestion of Mexico, and we also have a small amendment on decision 20AA, so as to allow for more members to participate in the intersessional working group. So we would amend 20AA(a) with establish an intersessional working group which includes the members of the animals, plants, and the standing committee. So the addition is the standing committee, and the rest remains the same. So that the membership of this intersessional working group can be as inclusive as possible. And we are also in line with the comment of the Chinese delegation of including in the same paragraph a reference to exclude external funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Canada.
Thank you, Chair. And so Canada would like to welcome this document as it underscores the issue of the growing challenge of addressing the number of decisions with the limited meeting time and resources. And so we agree there is a need to focus. Prior to addressing the recommendations, we just note that Canada recognizes that it is the Conference of the Parties that is taking these decisions, and the Conference of the Parties does not provide guidance in terms of relative priority. So we are a little bit concerned with how this application, how the prioritization matrix will be evaluated, adjusted, and then applied, given the importance of recognizing the primacy of the Conference of the Parties in directing the work of the committees. We would be concerned of a small working group essentially re-evaluating the decisions that this COP makes and overlaying a level of weighting, so to speak. That said, we recognize that as parties, we bear the collective responsibility for wisely directing the activities of the committee and the Secretariat, and we can do better. We fully agree that the workload is unsustainable and that the chairs are being asked to undertake a near impossible task. With this, Canada additionally recognizes that we place the safe running of the meetings in the hands of the chairs, and that they need to do some work in order to ensure that those committees are able to meet their mandate. So Canada is open to adopting these decisions, but we do have a number of questions similar to some of the points Mexico raised about how the application of it. And in particular, we have questions about the makeup of the intersessional working group. It's important that if an intersessional working group is undertaken, that it represents the parties in an equitable and well-distributed way, as it is essentially trying to evaluate the will of the parties as taken by the decisions of this Conference of the Parties. Canada thinks that perhaps we need some time at this meeting to give some careful consideration to how we want to proceed with this work. And so we would welcome the opportunity to look at the various suggestions that parties have raised and see if we could come up with an in-session working group with some decisions. Canada would not like to see the matrix applied intersessionally until parties have had a good opportunity to evaluate and think about how this should function in the future. And in that case, we would also be interested in hearing the additional decisions that the chair of the Animals Committee indicated he could propose. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Canada. Next, I give the floor to United Arab Emirates. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time we take the floor, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to the government and the people of Uzbekistan for their warm hospitality and excellent arrangement of hosting COP20. The United Arab Emirates welcomes the comprehensive analysis presented in document COP20, document 14, and commends the chair of the Standing Committee, Animal Committee, and Plan Committee, and the Finance and Budget Subcommittee for raising an issue of growing significance to all parties. The UAE recognizes the continued commitment of CITES to addressing complex and emerging challenges. However, we also acknowledge that the clear evidence presented that the Convention's workload has expanded at a pace that now exceeds the operational capacity of parties, permanent committees, and the Secretariat. We are increasingly concerned that excessive workload combined with limited time of deliberation may affect the quality, balance, and scientific robustness of decision-making. The UAE believes that meaningful participation, especially from developing countries, is essential for the legitimacy and effectiveness of the Convention. In this regard, the UAE supports efforts aimed to improving prioritization, focus, and predictability in the work of the committees. The proposed approach to develop and refine prioritization metrics represents as practical step towards ensuring that intersessional work is manageable, science-based, and aligned with the strategic function outlines in the Convention and relevant resolutions. At the same time, we stressed that any new mechanism must avoid unintentionally creating additional layers of complexity and administrative burden. The objective should be to streamline, not to expand, the system, ensuring that the Convention remains fit for purpose, targeted, and responsive to the most critical conservation and trade issues. In conclusion, the United Arab Emirates supports the adoption of the draft decision in Annex 1 with the understanding that the refinement of the matrix should be taken inclusively and transparently with parties, and that the overall aim is to reduce unnecessary burdens while strengthening the effectiveness and credibility of the Convention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And next, I give the floor to Kuwait. Please.
Thank you, Chair. Recognizing the urgent need to address the growing workable and on the standing Animal and Plant Committee, which has resulted in unfinished agenda, limited discussion time, and increased pressure on parties and the Secretariat, the proposed matrix and draft decision offer a practical and transparent way to focus resources on the Convention core mandate. We also share the concept and we want to align our position with Canada that the decision should be refined and intersessional working group should be formed in this conference of parties, so the party have the chance to look closer on these decisions and prioritize our needs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kuwait. And next, I give the floor to United States of America. But before you start, I would like to clarify. Are you speaking on behalf of your country or as the chair of standing committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the United States. The United States appreciates the work of the chairs in preparing the document and providing the parties with a practical and much-needed way forward for addressing the continued expanding workload of the CITES committees and the Secretariat, given the reality of the budgetary restraints. The review, refinement, and development of the recommendations regarding the draft prioritization matrix will help focus resources on the core mandate of CITES, ensuring that international trade in endangered species is legal, biologically sustainable, and traceable. The United States supports adoption of the draft decisions in Annex 1 with an edit. The United States proposes limiting membership in the Intersessional Working Group to parties and the members of the Animals and Plants Committee. The edit is intended to ensure the proposed Intersessional Working Group is efficient and focused on addressing the mandate. Recommendations from the working group would then be available for broader discussion at a meeting of the Standing Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. Next, Japan, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As many parties stated, it is quite clear that the Secretariat work is already overloaded and we are under huge pressure about time constraint and the increasing number of agenda items. For this reason, we are concerned that all this too much pressure may hinder the proper implementation of the objectives of the convention itself. That is our concern. For this reason, we strongly support enhancing efficiency and the direction provided in this document, CoP20 Doc 14. Of course, there are many small questions to be solved, but the prioritization matrix, we strongly support this initiative taken by the proponents. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Next, I give the floor to Argentina. Please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. La verdad que agradecemos al grupo de trabajo por la matriz propuesta para que sea un paso práctico hacia la calidad sobre la cantidad de documentos a tratar, pero nos parece súper importante que se tomen en cuenta tres cosas. La primera es que los documentos prioritarios sean del mandato de CITES. La segunda sería que se incluya todas las necesidades de las partes, especialmente aquellas con menor capacidad. Y la tercera, tener mucho cuidado en no aumentar el presupuesto, ya que nos está costando mucho llegar a esto. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And next, Singapore, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. This is the first time Singapore is taking the floor, and we extend our sincere appreciation to Uzbekistan for the warm hospitality and for hosting COP20. Singapore welcomes the establishment of an intersessional working group to review and refine the draft prioritization matrix, recognizing its importance for enhancing the efficiency of the convention through improved focus and prioritization. Whilst we appreciate that the working group will include members of the Animals and Plants committees, we note that the current formulation does not explicitly provide for party contributions to this important work. We consider that an effective prioritization matrix would benefit from party perspectives as parties implement the convention and have practical experience with implementation challenges, enforcement priorities, and resource allocation. Therefore, we echo the intervention from UAE, Mexico, and Brazil to include parties' comments on the prioritization matrix and that the intersessional working group take these comments into consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Singapore. Next, I give the floor to Colombia. Thank you.
Gracias, señor presidente. Tomando en cuenta que esta es la primera vez que Colombia se dirige a esta conferencia de las partes, queremos agradecer al gobierno y al pueblo de Uzbekistán por la bienvenida y acoger esta COP. Colombia agradece este documento y la matriz propuesta y reconocemos la necesidad de poder priorizar y asimismo también de analizar cuestiones expresadas por los países y que las cargas sean más sostenibles. Queremos apoyar la propuesta expresada por México en la que se considere la adición a los proyectos de decisión, considerando la composición y el proceso de quienes deben priorizar, tomando en cuenta los países megadiversos, como en este grupo interseccional de trabajo si llega a darse.
considerando obviamente las análisis y necesidades de países y partes que no necesariamente tienen la capacidad y representación en otros espacios. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Colombia. Next, I give the floor to Zimbabwe. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe agrees with the concept of improving the efficiency of the convention. However, we feel it is important not to delegate the work of the Conference of Parties to permanent committees of the convention. It is clear that the prioritization matrix still needs further work, hence it may be premature to adopt the decision in its current form. We therefore require more time for consultation on possible items for prioritization matrix, and therefore Zimbabwe suggests the establishment of an intersessional working group to further look at this and report back to COP21. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Next, I give the floor to Pakistan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Pakistan takes the floor for the first time at this COP and wishes to express its appreciation to the government of Uzbekistan for the warm hospitality and for hosting this conference in the beautiful and historic city of Samarkand. Pakistan supports the proposal to establish permanent animals, plants, and standing committees, recognizing that consistent and well-structured intersessional work is essential for strengthening the implementation of the convention. We also support the establishment of the intersessional working group as outlined in Decision 20AA to refine the draft prioritization metrics and guide the permanent committee's work in enhancing efficiency, focus, and prioritization. We see strong alignment with the mandate of the Animals and Plants Committee under Decision 20BB, particularly their role in identifying key factors to improve prioritization with their respective mandates. Pakistan would further like to second the proposal made by the Brazil, Singapore, and specifically UAE, United Arab Emirates, to ensure meaningful inclusion of developing countries in this intersessional working group and related committee processes. Inclusive participation is essential to ensure that the prioritization framework reflects diverse regional contexts, capacities, and conservation realities. Pakistan stands ready to contribute constructively to this process and looks forward to working closely with parties and the Secretariat as this important work moves forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, colleagues. Any other interventions? Please, Switzerland, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. It is the Chair of Animals Committee coming back. I've listened carefully to all the discussion, and I'm very pleased to hear that our ideas are very welcome. Maybe I have to explain a bit more what were our thoughts, because the whole proposal that we are making, it is a two-faced proposal. Because after this COP, at the end of this COP already, next days, the work starts for the Secretariat and for the committees, because we start working as soon as we finish here debating. So that's why we have proposed this matrix to be applied to the decisions by this Conference of the Parties for first time. And we have, in addition, asked to have the Standing Committee form that intersessional working group to refine the matrix. And the way it is formulated, it is in principle clear that this intersessional working group will be formed by the Standing Committee, including members of the two scientific committees, but open to all parties who want to participate in that intersessional working group. So it would not be an exclusive group, it would be inclusive. And concerning the proposed additional decisions, I had prepared something along the lines of what Mexico proposed, but with the idea that for prioritization, the work of the decisions decided at this COP now, that the chairs could already move forward. So we have the decisions would basically first say that the chairs of the permanent committees should, within 90 days after the closure of the COP20, apply that matrix to the decisions taken. At the same time, we would then propose to ask the Secretariat to issue a notification with that prioritization done by the chairs, and ask parties to provide their views on that prioritization list. And then the Secretariat would give that feedback back to the chairs to consider. So that would be for the first time we use that matrix. And only in the second phase would that matrix be discussed and refined. That's because we are quite on an urgent timescale. Always after the meetings, we have to start to work quite quickly, immediately after the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And now I give the floor to Mexico, please.
Gracias, señor presidente, y gracias también al presidente del Comité de Fauna por tomar en cuenta nuestra propuesta. Justamente le iba a preguntar cómo se iba a tomar en cuenta el texto que estamos proponiendo para esta decisión adicional, incluyendo las enmiendas que propuso el presidente del Comité de Fauna. Si nos pudiesen indicar cómo quedaría esta decisión adicional, ayudaría mucho para tomar una decisión sobre este tema. Gracias.
Thank you. I would like to ask you, Chair of Animals Committee, to make some explanations, please.
Thank you, Mexico, for that question. I think that is something the room here must decide, how we go about it. I do think it would be helpful to have an in-session working group, or to defer the topic to Committee 2, where the whole topic can be looked at and the decisions can be refined. Because I don't think here in plenary we can really do that in a meaningful way. So either having it deferred to Committee 2, or having an in-session working group that would come back to plenary later. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Canada. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. First, I would like to thank the Chair of the Animals Committee for providing some clarification on the two-stage process. We did understand the document to indicate that the intent of the chairs was to apply prioritization right for this meeting in terms of the decisions taken at this meeting. And we appreciate the additional potential decisions that the Chair of the Animals Committee indicated. Canada would just strongly support the Chair's comment about having a more deliberate discussion via an in-session working group. In listening to all the interventions, it's not clear that we all have a common understanding of the intent here, and I think we would all benefit from a small in-session opportunity to really think through this important document that the chairs have brought before us, as we have all indicated the importance of taking a more focused approach. Thank you, Chair.
Dear colleagues, I think we already got a lot of interventions from parties. And if you allow me, I would like also to give the opportunity to give some interventions for other parties and non-party states and intergovernmental organizations and observer organizations. Thank you. Now, I would like to give the floor to World Conservation Society. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Chair. And as this is the first time we're taking the floor, thank you to the government and peoples of Uzbekistan for hosting this wonderful conference, and greetings from the very, very back of the room. Thank you again. This is an important document. CITES is at a turning point with increased workloads and a funding crisis threatening the very effectiveness of the convention. We appreciate the work of the Secretariat and committee chairs behind the proposed matrix, as we see a strong need to dedicate limited resources to the core business of the convention. And we have two quick points. First, prioritization is essential, but it's insufficient. We won't solve the budgetary crisis, nor halt extinction by cutting agenda items. We urge parties to consider additional measures, including addressing the more than $4 million in outstanding contributions to the trust fund and exploring cost-saving measures, including possibly a study evaluating options for relocating the Secretariat to a more cost-effective location. We hope the budget discussion at this COP will consider these issues. In terms of the matrix, as drafted, it leaves significant room for interpretation. How frequently must a species be traded? Or what makes an issue time-sensitive? All factors are given equal weight, even though some are more directly tied to CITES' core matrix. As recognized by the Secretariat and by interventions here, more work needs to be done. We support adoption of these decisions. We suggest amendment to include observers in the intersessional working group. We do not support the suggestion of the United States. Many observers have extensive experience with CITES, and we suggest amending paragraph B to report back to Standing Committee 81 and 82 as well before making recommendations to the next COP. Once improved, this matrix could guide the work of the Standing Animals and Plants Committee meetings. But we shouldn't wait until the next COP, as agreed by several of those who intervened. We note prioritization is up to the COP. The decisions you take here are the priorities. Committees wouldn't be on such overload if parties went back to what the treaty said and meet every 2 years. The decisions and the priorities are up to you, the parties, and what you adopt at this COP. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. And next I give the floor to Born Free Foundations. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Chair. Since this is the first time we've taken the floor, I would like to add our appreciation to the host country of Uzbekistan and the city of Samarkand for their hospitality and the Secretariat for all its hard work, and to congratulate you, Chair, on your appointment. I'm making this intervention on behalf of 14 observer organizations. We share the concerns about extreme budget pressures, the lack of resources, the workload of the committees, the curtailing of discussions at meetings, and the consequent loss of essential species protections. We agree with the European Union and others regarding the urgency of this issue. We propose that the work of the committees and the Secretariat should refocus on CITES' official mandate, namely regulating wildlife trade and enforcing trade controls in order to fulfill its core purpose to ensure that international trade in specimens of wild animals and plants does not threaten the survival of the species, and those associated actions that are approved by the parties. So we urge parties to agree to the establishment of an intersessional working group. We also align with the Wildlife Conservation Society in urging for the inclusion of observer organizations in the working group and any related notifications, including not-for-profits who have considerable experience in making the most of scarce resources. These organizations can help shape a framework that enables CITES to do its job and deliver the mandate of the parties, and to address the needs of the wild species of fauna and flora that CITES is here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you for your intervention. Dear delegates, notes all the comments made on the floor, and I would like to propose to invite Committee 2 to take up the matter and establish an in-session working group if it considers this to be appropriate. Thank you. Dear colleagues, any objection to this proposal? Thank you. And we will close this item at the moment. Dear colleagues, we will back to this item during the next sessions. And Brazil asking for intervention. Brazil, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We don't oppose to your suggestion. On the contrary, we support it. It's just a matter of clarification. What's going to be the composition, and how is going to decide that, and in which instance we are going to discuss this? Thank you.
It will be considered at the Committee 2. China asking for intervention, please.
Thank you, Chair. We echo Canada. A working session should be set up for further discussion. Thank you.
Dear friends, and now I adjourn this agenda item, and we will come back to it as a closing plenary. And now we have reached the end of the working program. And thank you, and meeting is adjourned. And I would like to ask Secretariat for housekeeping announcement.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I would like to first mention that if delegates have not yet picked up your voting cards, please do so. They're available at the information desk. So voting cards are available at the information desk. And I would also like to remind you that this time, any cards that are lost and needs to be reissued, you will need to pay $5 US for any lost cards that are going to be reissued. I would also like to announce that the Credentials Committee will be meeting shortly after the adjournment of this session, and this will be in the Lawn Orchid Room, which is just outside this room, and towards the left as you see the display nice exhibitions from the host country, Lawn Orchid. This afternoon, there will be the meetings of the parties on a regional basis, starting from 3 p.m., lasting until 6 p.m. And these will take place in the following rooms. For the Africa region, it will be in this room, Argali, Plenary COP1 room. For the European region, the meeting will take place in Rhodiola, which is the Committee 2 room It is the room that the Standing Committee met yesterday. The Central and South America and the Caribbean region will meet in the Saiga room, which is just next to Rhodiola, the Committee 2 room. The Asia region will meet in the Bukhara Deer room, which is, as you exit outside, you turn left. It is 2 doors down from the Committee 2 room. The Oceania region will meet in the Desert Monitor room. And lastly, North America region will meet in the Marcor room, which is, as you exit this room, it'll be on the right-hand side. These should be displayed in the screens that you see in the corridors. At 6 o'clock, there will be a meeting of the Bureau, which will take place in the Lawn Orchid room. So it'll be the same room where the Credentials Committee is meeting, Bureau meeting at 6 p.m. And lastly, from tomorrow, the 2 committees will be meeting at the regular hours, which are 9 a.m. to noon, and in the afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. And that concludes the housekeeping announcement from the Secretariat. And I would also like to ask the technicians to display an announcement from the host country, which is the last housekeeping announcement. That there will be a cake cutting ceremony that will take place to celebrate the CITES 50th anniversary. And it will take place at the Eternal City starting at 1900, 7 p.m. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Waiting you at 7 o'clock in Eternal City.